All right. Are we good? Yep. All right, we're good. What's up, everybody? We're gonna do a live stream for the full card here because I've been a little busy, and I'm not gonna lie. Looking at this card for like the main card is all right, but looking at like the early predictions, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, or in early predictions, the early prelims, I was like, all right, this one's gonna take a while. So I decided to do a live stream. I think it would be quicker just uploading it that way. I will put in the tags a little bit later because last time I did a stream like this for the full card, people were asking for them. So it's gonna be a lot easier to put in the tags because I can just see where I am on Tapology and just insert them there. But we're gonna run through this card. I'm gonna run through the earlier prelims a little bit quicker than I would the main card because the main card is a lot more interesting fights. I'm gonna be honest, like Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick, like. Jasmine Jasudavicius, a little bit more laid out fight there. Johan Lainesse versus Sam Patterson. I guess a somewhat interesting fight just to see what would happen there. Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana. It is what it is. Cerise City versus Ramon Tavares. That's a little bit more interesting fight. And then it starts to get a little bit more interesting as we go up the card. So I'm going to start with Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick. I don't really have much to give you. Okay. I don't have really much to give you here, but I'm going to go with Malcolm Gordon. I didn't like what I saw from Jimmy Flick in his last fight. They're both 33 years of age, but I think 2 inches of reach will definitely be helpful for Malcolm Gordon. I don't have anything super specific or interesting to make for this prediction video. Like he lost to Charles Johnson by KO, lost to Alessandro Costa by KO. Alessandro Costa is a decent fighter, but he's not like anything crazy. I mean, he had a decently competitive round with Amir Albazi, and that's about it. So I'm going to go with Malcolm Gordon. Has wins over Dennis Bondar, which is not bad. Francisco Figueiredo about 2.5 years ago maybe wasn't that bad of a win to have there either. Lost to Jake Hadley, who's a really good fighter. Lost to Muhammad Makayev, and actually made it really competitive with Muhammad Makayev as well. So I'm going to go with Malcolm Gordon. I think he's just going to be a little bit better than Jimmy Flick in this fight. What the hell are you even saying in my chat? All right. Let's move on. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira. I'm going to go with Jasudavicius. She's really good in wrestling. Honestly, I picked her versus Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez looked a lot better when she came back from injury or whatever it was. I mean, she pulled out of the fight from, I think, was it Richie or something like that? I don't remember who it was. It wasn't Richie. It was someone else. I'm trying to remember. It was at Ribas. I think she pulled out of the fight from Ribas. Took a year off and then looked really good on the feet coming back. So I'm going to go Jasmine Jasudavicius. I think she can mix in her work, take down Priscilla Cachoeira. Priscilla Cachoeira has decent jiu-jitsu, but I'm going to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius. Her wrestling looks really good. She out-wrestled Miranda Maverick, kind of just destroyed her in that entire fight. So I think the pressure from Jasmine Jasudavicius will help her a lot here. I know Priscilla Cachoeira is really scrappy, but again, I just think Jasudavicius pressure, push her up against the fence, take her down. I think she's just going to dominate in this fight. And it is in Canada, so she's going to have the whole crowd behind her as well. So to move on, Johan Lainesse versus Sam Patterson. I'm going to go with Johan Lainesse. He does have some decent power in his hands. I'm not super crazy about him. Sam Patterson's actually a decent prospect, but he just doesn't really have a chin, and he's really hittable. I don't like that for this fight. Maybe Sam Patterson can kind of pull something out. Johan Lainesse lost his last fight against Mike Malott, but Mike Malott's a pretty solid fighter. I mean, is he top 15 at this point? I'm not sure. I think he's like 13 or something. I don't know, but he's moving up in the rankings, so he's a good fighter. Lost to Gabe Green as well. I mean, it is what it is there, but Johan Lainesse has some really good power in his hands, and I think the finishing ability from Johan Lainesse is a little bit stronger in this fight than it would say from Sam Patterson. Sam Patterson's a really decent, but after losing to Yanal Ashmouz, I can't really pick you here. I know Yanal is a lot smaller of a fighter, and Johan Lainesse is going to be similar to the size of Sam Patterson, so he's going to be a little bit easier to hit on the feet, especially from the hands. I'm just still going to go with Johan Lainesse in this fight. I don't know. Here, let me answer this real quick. Wait. This should be. I guess it just stops right there. All right. Going up in a weight class, I don't think would help at all. I mean, his chin was already pretty rough. Like you saw that in his last fight, you saw him just get absolutely annihilated. Maybe it'll be helpful to fight a little bit bigger guys that aren't how tall is Jan Schmooze in that fight? I mean, he's like a really small guy. It was really hard for him to hit him. He's 5'9", so maybe it's gonna be helpful not fighting a 5'9" guy. But again, I think lightweight to welterweight is a little bit different than I would say welterweight to middleweight, because I think the skill gap's pretty vast there. I'm not too sure about lightweight to welterweight. I guess we kind of just got to see there, but I'm still gonna go with Johan. And until I see something from Sam Patterson, maybe he looks a lot better in this fight. He's just way too hittable on the feet for me, especially at up a weight class with a lot more power going into it from a lot of these other fighters. I don't think that's a really smart idea for Sam Patterson. But who knows? Maybe the chin issues were from the weight cut or something. I don't know. But from what I've seen so far, I'm going I'm going with Liness. Jesus. All right, Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana. I'm going to go with Robertson. Polyana Viana trains out of Shootbox Dio Lima, so she's going to be that kind of style fighter, very crazy on the feet. She does have some good power in her hands. She absolutely flatlined Jinju Frey. I thought she won, or at least probably should have gotten a little bit of a nod in the decision against Tabitha Ritchie. I felt like she did a little bit more damage, or at least a little bit more in the fight, because I know she was off her back a lot of the time, but Tabitha Ritchie really didn't do too much. And so I thought she probably could have won that fight. Lost to Yasmin Lucinda, who does have a lot of power, ended up getting submitted, which is really interesting because I thought she always had really good jiu-jitsu. But Jillian Robertson I think she has the most submissions in bantamweight, women's bantamweight. What is this? No, women's strawweight, sorry. Women's strawweight history. So I'm going to go with Robertson here. She does have a lot better offensive grappling. I think she can take down Polyana Viana. Viana isn't really good at stuffing the takedowns. So I think before Viana is able to actually knock out Robertson, which is a pretty big problem for Robertson on the feet here, I think she's going to be able to take her down, maybe possibly submit her as well. I'm not too sure about this fight in whole because, it is a women's fight at the end of the day. Anything can happen. It is lower level as well. So maybe Viana can end up KOing Robertson early on in this fight before she's able to take her down, or maybe she's able to hurt Robertson pretty badly and end up submitting her, but I don't see that happening at all. So that's what I'm going with in this one. I think so too. She does have the tools, but I don't know if I wouldn't say she's as committed to the gym as the other fighters, like your Charles Oliveira, your Mini Oliveira. I always forget his name. Like your Nascimento. I don't know if she's that. I don't think she's applied herself as much as all the other fighters. So I'm just going to go with Robertson. It's really just a 50-50 in my brain, but I just think Robertson's just going to be able to hold her down to the ground. I don't know if she's going to be able to submit Viana. I think what I will say, it might be very similar to the way Islam submitted Charles Oliveira. If you think about it that way, like Yasmin Lucindo probably just out-muscled her into an arm triangle. I don't think Robertson's going to out-muscle Polyana Viana. That's what I will say. So I don't know if she's going to be able to submit Polyana Viana, but I think she's going to be able to hold her to the ground. So I'm just going to go with the decision for that one. It's weird comparing Yasmin Lucindo and Polyana Viana to Islam and Charles, but I don't think she got rocked in that one. Maybe she did. Cerise City versus Ramon Taveras 2. They fought on the Contender Series. A really bad stoppage. She got knocked down, but it wasn't really out of it at all. Even if the fight went the rest of the round, I don't think Ramon Taveras gets finished there. I am going to go with Ramon Taveras. And what I noticed in that fight, I know Cerise City is a good grappler, and you didn't really get to see it. And the reason why you didn't get to see it is because Ramon Taveras was able to stuff all the takedowns. I mean, Cerise City tried to engage in clinches, tried to shoot for takedowns. Ramon Taveras was able to stuff him. And the little time that fight went on for, how long did that fight go on? It was for basically the majority of the round. So from what we saw in that fight, Ramon Taveras was a lot better on the feet. Cerise City was way too hittable. I mean, he's a very big dude, and you could tell that he probably has a lot more power than Ramon Taveras, but Ramon Taveras' boxing and technique is a lot better than Cerise City. He does do a decent job of staying, I would say, staying away from shots. Cerise City was able to catch Taveras, but I still think Taveras' head movement is like decent enough to kind of avoid City's power again. I mean, Taveras saw City's takedowns and was able to stuff him in their first fight. I think he's going to be working on that a lot. I mean, City's probably going to be looking for takedowns in this fight because in that first fight, he was getting pieced up pretty badly on the feet and didn't attempt to take down. So I'm going Ramon Taveras. I think this one's going to be a decision win. It's going to be 29-28. I don't think he's going to KO City because City looks really tough. He looks like he has a really good chin. He looks really durable. I could be super wrong here, but I'm going Ramon Taveras here. I think he wins a decision, 29-28. A lot of people are taking City. I don't think by KO, though. I think that's a little crazy in my mind. I thought Ramon Taveras' last fight against Cortavius Romeus was actually pretty solid because it was just a scrap the entire time, and he was able to stay out of Romeus' shot. I think he got hit like a couple of times, but outside of that, I mean, I thought he looked really good. So let's move on. All right, now we get the interesting fights. I'm actually kind of excited about these ones. Charles Jourdain versus Sean Woodson. He is going to be at, what is this, a 9-inch reach disadvantage. But I will say, similarly to the Sam Patterson and Yanal Ashmouz, the smaller fighter is going to be a lot tougher to hit than a guy at Sean Woodson's side, which is, 6'2". I think Charles Jourdain with the power, I think he's going to be able to clip Sean Woodson very badly. And I'm expecting like a TKO finish for Charles Jourdain in the later rounds of this fight. So I'm going to go with Charles Jourdain. He has shown a little bit more of a balanced skill set recently. I mean, he just submitted, I was going to go Kron Gracie. He submitted Ricardo Ramos by guillotine and then was able to stay out of trouble against Kron Gracie. It wasn't super wild. If it was like an old Charles Jourdain, I think he probably could have gotten submitted against Kron Gracie, just trying to do too much, trying to get the finish. But he's going for a more balanced approach. This is in Canada, so the crowd's going to be really behind him because he's a very entertaining fighter, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a really big fan favorite, I believe. Oh, they didn't make him the prelim headliner. I don't know why the hell they didn't do that. He should definitely be the prelim headliner for sure going into this main card, but I'm going to go with Charles Jourdain. Sean Woodson hasn't fought in, 5 months, beat Dennis Bazooka by decision. But he's just like a really weirdly built fighter. I can see Charles Jourdain going after his legs a little bit more and then just countering with like a right or left hook and hurting Sean Woodson very badly. So I think the shots are going to be available for Charles Jourdain in this fight. Holy shit. Especially against a more hittable fighter in Sean Woodson as we move through this fight. Woodson showed fragility against Luis Saldana and Charles Jourdain. Oh, I didn't even talk about that Luis Saldana fight. That was one of the craziest fights I've ever seen. I mean, in any other world, Sean Woodson loses that fight. If it wasn't Luis Saldana jumping on the cage, I think, a couple times? Didn't he, it was a knee to the grounded opponent, and then he knocked him down, a couple other times. It was such a weird fight. I feel like a club and sub is live here. I think so too. It can, yeah. I can see him hurting Sean Woodson very badly and maybe hopping on a guillotine or just hopping on the back or something like that. So all right, up the card we have Katona versus Armfield. I'm gonna go with Katona. I think he's a little bit faster than Armfield. I was watching some of Armfield's fight. I couldn't find his Kazama fight. I guess ESPN had a typo in his name or something like that, and it was actually really annoying me. I couldn't find this fight for some reason. But I'm going to go with Katona. I think he's a little bit faster on the feet. I think he's got a little bit more combinations in his hands as well. Armfield, I think, is just a little bit slower. I think Katona is actually a pretty decent fighter. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if he's going to get ranked, but I do think he beats guys in the skill level of Garrett Armfield. So I am going to go with Brad Katona. I don't think he gets the finish. I'm going to say he wins by decision. I don't think he has the power to KO Garrett Armfield in this fight, but I'm going to go with Brad Katona by decision. Majority Tapology is choosing the same here. Let's see. Let's move on. Oof. All right. Yeah, that's the next fight, right? Movsar Evloev versus Arnold Allen. I did an early prediction for this one. I'm going Arnold Allen in this fight. Movsar Evloev's really strong, and he does out power and out strength. Well, I wouldn't say out power. He does out muscle a lot of his opponents and shoots for double legs and things like that. But Arnold Allen comes from a family that's got very superior genetics. Like, he comes from bodybuilders, power lifters or whatever. Like, his father's like a, what do you call it? Like a strong man. So his genetics probably match up with Movsar Evloev's. You know how strong some of these Russian guys are. His genetics probably go hand in hand with Movsar, and he does have a good grappling ability that I think is going to give Movsar Evloev some problems in this fight. And he does have the ability to strike on the feet. He's going to be fast on the feet. He's going to have a lot of pop in his shots. He's going to have a lot of power. Very explosive guy. So I do think as this fight goes on, Arnold Allen is going to tire out a little bit more. There have been for both of these guys, there have been kind of rough cardio moments for both of them. Movsar Evloev has shown to have a little bit better cardio as he's gone on in his career. I know Arnold Allen went 5 rounds with Max Holloway, but he wasn't really throwing too much in that fight until the 5th round. So I'm going to go with Arnold Allen. I think Movsar Evloev might win the 3rd round, but I think it's going to be more of him holding him against the fence. I think that's kind of what Evloev has to do in this fight, is hold Arnold Allen against the fence, because I don't think allowing any distance for Arnold Allen is a good idea for Movsar Evloev. I think off his back foot, he's going to be able to land pretty well on Evloev, who isn't that defensively aware. Every time we do see Evloev, I will say, he has gotten a lot better, like skill-wise. From the Dan Ige fight to the Diego Lopez fight, his striking looked a lot better. He didn't look super confident in his striking, but I will say in 8 months, maybe he did improve that a little bit more, and he's going to look a lot better on the feet. But I still think Arnold Allen, who is explosive, who does have a decent grappling ability, who is strong as well, I think he's going to cause a lot of problems for Movsar in this fight, and I can see him hurting Movsar multiple times in this fight, and I do think he wins off of damage, probably 29-28. I think the last round Movsar probably banks there, but I just don't think the finishing ability is there for him. So I'm going to go with Arnold Allen here, 29-28 decision. Let's see. I think I scrolled up. I don't know why my some of these comments aren't pulling up, but Lucky Shop said a family of powerlifters. Yeah, that's for sure. I don't know why this thing's not updating. Arnold Allen hasn't had a good win besides Drain Hooker and a torn ACL Cater. Yeah, you're definitely right, but I think based off of the skills that we've seen in both fighters, I do think Sadiq Yousaf's a decent win by decision there, but it was a little bit rougher. It was 3 years ago. The sad part about Allen is that his hands keep breaking, so he has to take some excessive time between fights. I mean, Arnold Allen a couple years ago is kind of in a similar spot to Evloev, where we just don't know what he looked like back then. And then we saw him fight Dan Hooker, or I guess it was after the Dan Hooker fight. We saw Dan Hooker move down and looked pretty drained and pretty rough. So, I mean, it was a good win to have, but you still wanted to see something else. Calvin Kattar, that one was pretty rough as well. I feel like Evloev, we're going to learn a lot about Evloev in this fight, especially where he's at. He's almost 30 now, so he's entering his prime. So this is where we'll see a more complete Evloev than we have seen before. So I am going to go with Arnold Allen. Evloev just hasn't shown me enough to be able to comfortably pick him in this fight. Arnold Allen is still pretty young as well, so they're both going to be getting better. I just think Arnold Allen is just going to be a little bit better on the feet, going to be able to stuff some of the takedowns. I do think he does gas out a little bit further into this fight. I think the grappling exchanges really take a toll on Arnold Allen, and I think 3rd round Evloev got it, but I think before then Arnold Allen wins this one by decision. All right, let's move on. All right, Chris Curtis. I feel like this fight should kind of open the card, right? Because this one's going to be a scrap for sure. Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. I'm going Chris Curtis. He's a lot better of a boxer than Marc-Andre Barriault. I mean, Barriault has moments in his fights, but I mean, he did beat Eric Anders. Was a little bit more competitive than I would have liked for sure. Beat Julian Marquez by KO. That one was a little bit more scrappy at the beginning, but he kind of pulled away with it later on. Lost to Anthony Hernandez, who's a really good fighter, of course. Chidi Njokuani as well, who does have power. Chris Curtis has really good boxing, is really defensively aware as well. I'm going to go with Chris Curtis. I think he's going to be able to chew up the body and land pretty good on the head of Marc-Andre Barriault. I think, will he win by... Okay, my thing finally updated here. But I don't know if he's going to be able to get the finish. Well, I'm going to go with the finish for Chris Curtis. I think this fight gets really scrappy, and I think when push comes to shove, I think Chris Curtis is going to land a lot more of the heavier strikes on Marc-Andre Barriault here. What did you say? I can see Curtis flatlining Mark, but Chris's tendency to... here's the thing with YouTube. They got these stupid little heart things. I think it's like a reaction or whatever. I can't see the message. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can... Oh, there we go. see flatlining Mark, but Chris's tendency to wait and can let the fight run away from him. I think so too. He's really patient. He did have a little bit of a scrap against Gastelum, and I do think without like the head clash that dropped him, I think he could have won that fight. So I think if this does get scrappy, I think a lot more calm Chris Curtis, who's not fighting Imavov where it was a head clash, because it looked like he was on his way to kind of losing that fight because Imavov was really quick, covers distance pretty well. I don't think Marc-Andre Barriault is that way. He doesn't really cover distance that way, and I think a defensive Chris Curtis, who's not going to get hurt as much as Eric Anders was when he got dropped early on in that fight, I think that's going to be a lot more helpful for him. I think Marc-Andre Barriault, who's more what's the word here? Is going to scrap with Chris Curtis. I don't think that's a good style for him in this fight. So let's try not to fuck that up. 81% for Chris Curtis here, 60% by TKO. That's probably the right decision there. I think he does chew up the body. Probably a third round finish, his second or third round finish for Chris Curtis. I don't mind seeing for him in that one. Mike Malot's getting the Neil Magny treatment. I'm going Mike Malott. Neil Magny's not that good, especially at this point in his career, 36 years of age. If Neil Magny is going to beat you, he's going to hold you up against the fence and win by decision. I mean, let's be real. He's not going to really do too much. I think he did finish. Who did he finish? He finished D-Rod, but that was at the end of the fight, and D-Rod did not look good at all. So maybe there's something else to it, but Mike Malot's pretty skilled pretty much everywhere. He does have some sneaky power, really good combinations on the feet, very technical. I don't think he's going to get held up against the fence against Neil Magny. I don't see him finishing Neil Magny either. I do think he does have a really impressive performance, though. Maybe he can shoot on Neil Magny and beat him up on the ground and maybe try to submit him there. Maybe he lands pretty well on Neil Magny, but I don't see him KOing Neil Magny. Maybe the crowd will get him hyped or something like that, and he'll do a lot of damage, kind of like what Ian Gary did, but Ian Gary kind of just ruined his legs. And Neil Magny took that on short notice as well, but I'm going Mike Malott by decision, 30-27. I think he pretty much destroys Neil Magny in this fight. Neil Magny's not getting any younger, and I don't think he has looked nearly as impressive as he used to. So Mike Malott, a decent fighter. If you're losing to Neil Magny, you're probably unranked. So I think Mike Malott's a pretty good welterweight, and I think he's going to move up this division quite a bit. So he's getting a good fight here in Neil Magny. I don't know if Mike Malott is actually ranked. It said he's 41 here. Maybe he's not ranked. I thought he was ranked. Let me check. He isn't ranked. Okay. That's interesting for sure. So hopefully maybe he gets ranked after this fight. If not, he might have to fight like a Dalby or something to get ranked, but let's move on. Mike Malott, 30-27 decision. Nothing too crazy there. Oh my gosh. Actually, I'm not looking forward to this fight. A lot of people are going in Bueno Silva. I think that's probably about right. I'm going to be honest. Raquel Pennington is such a boring fight. I actually want Bueno Silva to win this fight because honestly, at least she has the ability to finish. Yeah, Dalby is a hard fight, but I think Malott can. Dalby is very good, but Mike Malott's not Bonfim. Bonfim has a really good style. I really do like watching Gabriel Bonfim, but he's very defensively unaware, and Dalby was just cracking him over the chin. I think Mike Malott's a little bit more defensively sound. I know didn't he get tagged a couple times against Fugit, but I mean, still even after that, I think that's still a decent fight for Malott, where you can see a little bit more out of him, a little bit tougher fight. I don't think they're going to give him easy fights coming up, but they are trying to build a star for Canada, so who knows. But I'm going to go with Mayra Bueno Silva in this fight. Does she win by decision or by submission? I think so. She does have a really good ability to finish fighters here. She just got off a suspension for PEDs, right? What was it? Was it like Adderall or something? What was this last fight? Oh, Ritalik. I don't even know what that is. But yeah. He got tagged against Mickey Gall. Yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe that might not be a good fight for him. But he's getting a little bit older. He's going to be going into his prime. Older as in he's not 35, but I think he's like 30 or something like that. Isn't Mike Malott like 30 years old? 32. Okay, so he is getting older. Maybe Dalby's not a smart fight there. But he's going to be fighting guys around that range in his next fight for sure. But I'm going Mayra Bueno Silva by submission. Oh, I tried not to do. I tried not to watch too many Raquel Pennington fights, but I just think the finishing abilities. It's a Brazilian salsa. Yeah, that's the perfect way to say it. I'm going with Bueno Silva. She does have more of a finishing ability in this fight, and I think over 5 rounds it's going to show a little bit more. She was able to submit Holly Holm when she went for a takedown. I think it was a standing ninja choke, but it looked more like a. She was just able to catch Holly Holm coming in for a takedown, so or going into the clinch or whatever. Which thank God that fight ended. But I do think I just don't like Raquel Penny. I don't think she's gonna be able to outstrike her in this fight. I don't think she's gonna be able to avoid getting finished here by Mayra Bueno Silva. Her catching Holly Holm in that choke was actually super impressive, especially on the feet. It's like something I'm not gonna. What am I doing? I was gonna compare her to like the finishing ability to Shavkat because she is getting a lot of submissions in her fights. Like she beat or she lost to Manon Fiorot by decision, beat Yanan Wu. Kind of when that she changed divisions, she looked a lot better. So I'm going Mayra Bueno Silva by submission. I don't got anything special here. I'm gonna be honest, but Raquel getting older hasn't looked that great. I'll go her by submission. I don't got anything special for that fight. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna that's a pee break in all my concerns. I'm gonna be honest. All right, Strickland versus Du Plessis. I'm gonna go Sean Strickland. I did an early prediction for this fight as well, and Dricus has a very, very good fan base. I will say that. It's definitely helpful. You definitely notice a pretty big jump in views for sure, but I'm sticking with Sean Strickland. And I know Dricus just beat Robert Whitaker by KO with pretty much a jab. Robert Whitaker just likes getting KO'd by jabs for some reason, or straight shots, or it's not necessarily KO'd, but he likes getting dropped by them. Not even sure why. I think it's a lot to do with his style on the feet, where a lot of it is his footwork, where he has a very open style, like he keeps his hands down, but he's gonna like pump fake you. He's gonna get you to come in, and then he's gonna counter with a shot. And I think a lot of that is when he pumps and goes in, a lot of guys are able to catch him if they're able to figure out if they're able to avoid the distance game from Robert Whitaker where he goes jab and then head kick. If you're able to avoid that, you're able to block that, and you're able to time Robert Whitaker going in, you can kind of hurt him pretty badly. And Dricus does have a lot of power, so I think that definitely helped as well. But Dricus was able to take down Robert Whitaker with a headlock as well. Like, by all means, Dricus should be able to win this fight. But I think Sean Strickland, I know the press conference might have a little bit to do with this fight and how and what goes on in it, because I think a Sean Strickland who's very aggressive, if Dricus Du Plessis is able to get under Sean Strickland's skin and it affects the fight, I think Dricus wins this one pretty easily. If Sean Strickland goes out there aggressive, he's going to get flatlined. I'm going to be honest. But I do think the coaching of Sean Strickland, I mean, this obviously this might show that I'm not learning from my mistakes, because I did I did pick Sean Strickland to beat Alex Pereira, and he did not take him down. But however, this isn't grappling. I do think Sean Strickland's style on the feet won't warrant him being aggressive. I think he's just going to be that weird style Sean Strickland is anyways, and I don't think Dricus Du Plessis is as technical as Alex Pereira is on the feet. Although Dricus Du Plessis did get like his nose fixed and everything like that, I still think that over 5 rounds he is going to get tired out. He's a really big dude. You saw that against Robert Whitaker. I know Robert Whitaker was tagging him up a lot, especially early on in that fight. I know, and then Dricus kind of had the swing in the round later in that first round, was able to land some shots as well. But I think Sean Strickland over the fight, like Sean Strickland's not going to get tired. He's one of those guys similar to Colby where they're just naturally good cardio wise. Although Colby's style shows a little bit more of the cardio, Sean Strickland is a guy who's never going to tire out. He's constantly working. He's constantly sparring and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go with Sean Strickland in this fight. I think eventually he can be able to tag Dricus coming in. Sean Strickland does have some really weird defensive abilities on the feet. He has shown to be able to check leg kicks now. That was a really big problem. That's why I picked Adesanya, because I thought he's gonna tear up Sean Strickland's leg. But he learned to actually have decent leg kick defense. But Sean Strickland with the Philly shell, it's a really awkward style. I know Dricus has a really awkward style on the feet as well. But I think eventually as this fight goes on, Dricus is going to tire out. Maybe he's able to catch Strickland, maybe hold him against the fence, try to take him down, and then will eventually tire out in that fight. And I think Strickland's just going to tag him up a lot. And maybe we might see a finish from Strickland in the 4th or 5th round. Like Dricus du Plessis has been hurt pretty badly early on in his career in the UFC. I mean, outside of his KSW stuff, like he beat Roberto Soldic, looked pretty good there, lost to him in the rematch, of course. But coming into the UFC, he was getting hurt a lot. I mean, he finished Marcus Perez relatively easily there, beat Trevin Giles, but that Brad Tavares fight, he took a lot of damage and took some damage against Darren Till as well. He got his nose fixed, of course, but I just do think as this fight goes on over 5 rounds, I think Sean Strickland's just going to pull ahead slightly. And I think we're seeing, if it does go to a decision, I think it'll be more 48-47, if anything. But I think eventually Strickland's going to start opening up. He's going to be really patient, really calm early on. He's not going to throw too much. He's going to play more of the defensive game from Dricus. Dricus is going to look for takedowns. He's going to look to be the aggressor. Maybe he can catch Sean Strickland with his weird style just coming on the outside because they both are very interesting styles. Like, although Strickland does operate out of the Philly shell, it is like a really weird, like, pawing game with him defensively. So I am going to go with Sean Strickland in this fight. I do think as this fight goes on, he does have really weird pop in his shots. He's a very decently strong dude. Like, he's defensively all right on the ground. I know against Abbas was able to take his back, and Abbas isn't really a guy who looks for takedowns too much because he is pretty good on the feet, but he's able to take his back, Sean Strickland's back, relatively easily there. Maybe Dricus can do the same, just out-muscle Sean Strickland, but I do think Sean Strickland, as this fight goes on, will pull away, will land the better shots in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, because I do think Dricus is going to tire out a little bit more, just trying to do too much in the early rounds against Sean Strickland in a 5-round fight as well, looking for that finish. Maybe he hurts Sean Strickland and just tries to go for it. Then that adrenaline dump is going to happen as well. The only reason why I'm saying this is because against Robert Whitaker, he did look a little bit tired as well. It could have been with Robert Whitaker timing some of the shots that Dricus was throwing on the feet, but I think Sean Strickland will pull away. 48-47 decision. If not, I can see a finish in like the 4th round here with Sean Strickland just catching him with a counter or something like that. Let's see. There we go. I'm never betting against Dricus. Beating Whitaker was the last straw. He's horribly technically, but he somehow makes these guys fight his fight. Yeah, you're completely right. I was actually with Dricus for the entire bit of his career. I was actually going to take him against Robert Whitaker, but I was like, nah, this is going to be crazy. Like, if Robert Whitaker wins this, I'm not going to hear the end of it, but I was actually going to pick him. I think I called it in one of my videos. I was like, if Dricus wins this, it's going to be in the 2nd round by KO. Then I was like, oh shit. And it's going to be with a jab is what I called it. But I kind of pissed myself off not picking him there. It actually made me pick Sean O'Malley against Aljamain Sterling, and he won that one. So it made me trust my gut, but I do think Sean Strickland wins this one. Dricus is really good, though. I'm a really big fan of Dricus. I'm a fan of both of these guys. Dricus a little bit more than Sean Strickland right now because Sean Strickland is really annoying me, but either way, this fight is probably going to lead to an Adesanya fight. It kind of depends on what happens in this press conference and how Sean Strickland reacts to it, because if I'm Dricus, keep mentioning his father, get under his skin and see how Sean Strickland reacts to it, because if he's not able to keep his cool, this fight is going to be a lot easier for Dricus. I'm going to be honest. If Sean Strickland goes out there aggressive, he's going to get caught in a flat line. So I'm going to go with Sean Strickland. I think he can keep his cool. It's not him forcing him to grapple, because he's never going to grapple, especially against Dricus, who's a very strong dude and a very good grappler himself. It's not going to happen in this fight. So I think on the feet, he's going to look a lot better. As this fight goes on, I'm picking Sean Strickland. It might be a bad idea, but I think he wins this fight for sure. We'll have the rematch against Adesanya. Maybe he beats Adesanya again. I can actually see him beating him after what we saw in the first one. What about Strickland saying he's going to stab Dricus? I don't think he's going to stab him. I think that's kind of dumb as well. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole thing. Sean Strickland really hasn't acknowledged the things people are saying and counter to what he's saying. Like, he's acting like a hypocrite. Like, it is what it is. I do like Sean. I liked him before the championship. I don't know if the championship's making him think that he has to, like, go out there and be a role model for people or something. I don't know. But I don't think he's going to stab Dricus. He's going to get under his skin. It's going to be like what is it? The press conference is on Thursday. Weigh-ins are on Friday. This Saturday is going to be the fight. So it is what it is. Yeah, he is a hypocrite. And a lot of the new Sean Strickland fans, because he is reaching quite a casual audience there. Like he's reaching quite a bit. Like if he has an extensive run at middleweight, he's going to bring a lot of people to the sport for sure. But a lot of the new fans do not know what Sean Strickland has been saying in the past. So, I mean, it is what it is. I try not to hold it against those people, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm choosing Sean Strickland, though. I think he wins this fight. They're going to have the rematch with Adesanya. That one's a different fight. Adesanya, I don't know how I feel about Adesanya at this point, because he did get beat pretty badly against Sean Strickland on short notice. But, I mean, I don't know if Adesanya at this point in his career is going to get any better. But that's the next fight. That's assuming Sean Strickland wins. This is actually a pretty 50-50 fight, depending on who you're asking. But I'm going to go with Sean Strickland here. That's it for this full card prediction. I don't think any... Oh, yeah. Actually, some fights got announced. Gaethje versus Holloway. I will make something on that maybe Friday, because I might want to just make a whole video for Strickland versus Duplessis. But Holloway versus Gaethje, that was much needed for 300. Thank God that one happened, because now looking at the card, if we're being honest with ourselves, if you take out Gaethje versus Holloway, that is a very, very rough card. I mean, it is extremely rough. Wait, whoa. Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad should not be... It's a BMF title fight. You can put it above Bilal Muhammad and Leon Edwards, right? I hope so. I don't know why... I don't know why they have this separated so much. Are they going to put Weili Zhang and Zhao Nan on the prelims? There's no way. Oh, wait, no, they're calling it the main card, but why is it down here? I don't know what Tapology is doing. They do the same thing with like KSW or other promotions like Brave or whatever. I get super confused looking at it. But this card actually looks a lot better with Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. Like, it looks so much stronger. If you take it off, it's like, what the hell are we doing here? But Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, I think that fight's probably going to happen on this card. Maybe it won't. I won't have a problem if it's not. Maybe Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill might happen on this card. I don't know what's going on with Jamal Hill, but I think that's the next fight anyways. Who knows? Should be a really good card, though. I mean, just looking at this card. Bobby Green, Jim Miller on the prelims. Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt on the prelims. Bo Nickel versus Brundage on the prelims. Cater versus Sterling, really good fight. Zhao Nan versus Weili, if there's other fights on the card, isn't that bad of a fight. Oliveira versus Sarukian is a banger. Yuri Prohaska versus Rakic, really good fight there. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway is going to be a scrap. So that's 300 so far. Hopefully they get fights announced. It is like 12 weeks away, so a lot of people who are freaking out. I mean, it would be nice to see the 300 card 12 weeks away, but it is 12 weeks away. Like they have so much time to get some of these fighters fighting. They do 8-week training camps or 10-week training camps, so we will get a lot more fights announced, especially the main event fights. You'll see them do a little bit longer training camps. We'll see how this card looks. It's going to look a lot better. I'm assuming maybe they might move 299 fights over if the same thing happens. That happened to 200, happens to 300, but we'll see how that one goes. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys